Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living, for us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture.
And we do know, and we do see that gravity works over there. Gravity is a force that works all over the planet, just like the spiritual realms that we're in. Just push the bottom of your phone away from you a little bit. Yep, there you go, right there. If you can stay right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know you got height on you, but when it falls down like that, it appears to be like when a kid is peeking over the counter at a candy store.
Oh, right on. Right on. I'll set this up the right way.
Yeah, yeah. Take your time, brother. We're here.
Let me set this up the right way here. Okay. Hold on. I always do this, huh?
That's okay. Here. That's okay. If you let the fall, then we know something's up.
Oh, yeah. All right. Is that? Or do I need to let it down? Huh?
Yeah, just pull the top towards you a little. Boom, right in there.
Okay.
Because I want your information on the screen so they can see to go to your website. If I remove it, it'll be okay. But we want to have it. If you put a book under it or something under it, or some type of it's okay? Better. Yeah, yeah. I'd rather your head in the center, but it's kind of on the bottom. But that's okay.
Okay.
If that's what can be done. We'll move forward. Right there. Yeah, right there.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good right there.
Okay.
That's good. I'm gonna show you one of those stands that you can get. That's really like $4 or $5 they cost, and you put the phone on there and you just tilt it and it stays perfectly still.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, yeah, those will be perfect. I'm gonna I'm gonna get that video, which I sent you the link from earlier, and I had the show ready from when you first sent it. And
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but I didn't fetch it. It's
on your message. It's on your messenger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. I see it. I'm gonna go to YouTube right now and pull it up so we can share it. So we'll get into a little banter before we get into everything. Give me a little time to pull this up. It won't take no more than a minute or two. I'm just gonna punch in the title and pull it up.
Okay.
And we're gonna make sure.
Well, yeah, brother Lance. I just as always, it's great to be with you on Mondays. And I want to send a shout out to everybody in the chat room. And a lot of stuff going on in the world, huh?
Yes, yes.
Another one of these mass shootings by one of these people. I don't care what you want to call them. Okay, they have issues with us and who we are. And, you know, Black people have been used to dealing with struggles. We said this before. So when all of this chaotic stuff started happening, it's just going to be another day at the ranch for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but some people who are used to having, you know, everything at their fingertips anytime they want it, those are going to be the ones that are really going to lose it, like we saw with the guy in Maine. And, you know, somebody being a trained killer, you know, makes it even worse. So we know that the time now that the energy vortex for this time is open. It will not be closed. There are several reasons for that. And we're going to touch on that today. Today, we are actually highlighting the work of a brilliant brother, Dr. George G.M. James.
Yes.
And it's, you know, what's so amazing is they want to bury all of our scholars. They want to bury their work. Okay, and they never mention them in the schools where our children are taught. And so this is why it's so important for us to continue, because I can turn on the TV at any time and see a story about Europeans from, 1,500 years ago.
For real.
A movie. But yet we have our people today, we don't even have to go into antiquity, but yet they want to deny them, their rightful place in history.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and there's a video right there.
Okay.
And
yes,
I wanted to just continue for a second.
Okay.
On what we said about, which is very important, that when you have someone who's evolving in front of you, don't take them for granted. Just because you're close to somebody and they might pass gas or have morning breath or not feel good because they have cramps every month, we're not supposed to see them on just a physical level. And I will share like what I said before earlier, and we'll segue into this and I'll let you take it away, that we have entities that are assigned to us in the spirit realm that we don't see. And we have an energy about us that either it invites these positive energies and it also opens up the door for these negative energies.
Yes, it does.
And so I will share this really quick because everybody's attention is at a high point. I'm not trying to steal the thunder or anything like that. This is your show. But I'm going to talk about this in a more detailed way another time. I was on the phone with a buddy of mine. We've known each other from the middle 70s. We know each other's families. We are family. And as I spoke to him over the phone, I noticed that I started to see these I thought it was a bat that flew in the house like it did the other day, right? But it wasn't. And I'm like, what is this? Everything was lit up. My studio's not finished, but I was down in a sizable. So as I'm talking, I kept catching a glimpse of something out the corner of my eye. Then I started seeing like it would just pop up and disappear within 1/10 of a second. There you go. I know I'm doing something right.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I'm doing something right. You see, because these are things that when you know the deal on that spiritual realm, and you may not see everything because a lot of us wake up and we got that matter encrusted in our eyes where we can't see everything. We got to wipe it away. But when you do the right practices and wipe it away, you begin to see what surrounds you.
That's right.
So, the other day we caught that snake, right? We caught that snake, that python actually, and you saw it. I sent it. Yeah,
I saw it.
Now, there are a lot of snakes out here in West Africa, pythons, king cobras, things like that. These pythons, they get real long.
Yeah, they're powerful.
Yeah, but it was up in the daytime. I'm not going to tell the whole story right now. I'll tell another time when I get on that subject. But what I'm saying is that you got to look at things that are presented to you in the physical as signs of what is going on in the spiritual.
Yeah,
and we don't do that. Exactly. And since my life is very and happily isolated, where I don't have the stimuli of foolishness around me, I'm up in the mountains like a monk. So my level of tranquility and focus on all levels is even amplified. So I'm going to see more. You see what I mean?
And something
so
I wanted to comment on the fact that it was a python. The interesting thing about a python is it kills its prey by wrapping itself around them and squeezing them.
Yes.
So that too is a type of sign that a python, the python spirit that's surrounding you, they're trying to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze.
And it's hard for them to get to me because ain't nobody around me that's going to squeeze me that way. So I got to be careful. You know what I mean? That's what that told me. I had to be careful of what's going to try to come around me. You know what I mean?
Or it could be one that's trying to come around you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, it's a footnote. We're going to move on because we have the video in place. But I always tell Mr. SCURV, I said, listen, when you and me go out into the town, everything's cool. When I go out there by myself, here come the women. Hi. Same ones that don't say nothing when she's here. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You show a little more cleavage, you know, and all that stuff. I know what it is. Ain't nothing gonna come around me because they trying hard. I have to share some things with you offline. Okay. We're not gonna dominate with that.
There's
but
some beautiful sisters out there, man.
Yeah, and most men would fall for it. I know I'm not demonizing all of them. But there's some situations that are like very aggressive.
Really?
What? Oh man, you wouldn't believe it, man.
Oh wow.
I got some stuff. Anyway, I'm ready when you are, brother, to play this. And I got you reduced on the screen there, so you can be seen. So be aware of that. But here we go. We're gonna play this.
All right.
Tonight we begin to uncover a body of knowledge that was in fact stolen from its African creators.
Let me just say that this is obviously taken from a VHS tape, and the volume may be a little lower and maybe a little warped. So if we can just, everybody who's watching, just turn it up a little more. I have it turned up as much as I can. So just bear with it. Just look for the truth that's within. All right, here we go.
Indeed, it is a stolen legacy. This is the Bunker Hill Monument in Boston. It and the Washington Monument are structures known as obelisks. They were constructed in the early part of the 19th century to commemorate Revolutionary War heroes. Africans in an ancient land that they called Kemet were the first to construct obelisks of solid granite, over 170 feet high. They were religious and scientific instruments. The obelisk could be used to determine the meridian for astronomical calculations and as an accurate shadow clock. An African-born mathematician named Eratosthenes used an obelisk in Kemet to determine the radius and circumference of the Earth. Here's how it could be done. By measuring the shadow of an obelisk of known height, the angle of the sun can be determined. Then, traveling a known distance and measuring when the sun is directly overhead, as evidenced by the absence of shadow, suggests that proportion which can be easily solved for the radius and circumference of the Earth. This milestone in history demonstrates that African technology was advanced and thorough enough to prove the Earth was round long before Columbus made his voyage. Good evening. I'm Natalie Christian. Our purpose here tonight is to begin to set the record straight about the contributions that Africans made to what we call modern civilization. As the title of our show implies, Stolen Legacy is about some of the advancements made that were in fact stolen from their African creators. We borrowed our show title from a book of the same name by George James. To help us begin to uncover this knowledge are two people who have spent a great deal of time and energy researching and gathering data on what these contributions were and their impact. My guests are Dr. Asa Hilliard, a national authority on African history, the former dean of the School of Education at San Francisco State University. Dr. Hilliard is currently the Callaway Professor of Urban Education at Georgia State University in Atlanta. He has developed many educational programs on our topic tonight. He has lectured on the subject and has taught seminars as well as published numerous articles. Also here is Samuel Matthews, a math teacher at Boston Latin School for the past 6 years. Mr. Matthews attended Rutgers University and is a graduate of the New England Conservatory of Music. He is a member of the Teaching About Africa Institute in Chicago and has lectured on the subject of African mathematics. Later on in the program, we'll be taking your phone calls so you can ask your questions of our experts, and we'll be offering a list of books that you can read to find out more about those African contributions. So stay tuned. Welcome to you both. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We need to, first of all, find out about Kemet. Sam, tell us, what is Kemet?
Well, Kemet is the African name for what is generally known as Egypt. Kemet, from the hieroglyphics, KMT, there were no vowels in their language, means black crossroads or black village. If you go to World Book Encyclopedia, you would have that interpreted as black soil.
Okay.
But Kemet is what is commonly known as ancient Egypt.
All right. Asa, what kind of civilization was this? I mean, we know it as Egypt, but it was not Egypt. That's a another name that was given to it by another culture.
Right. I think it's important to keep the chronology straight while we're talking about the title. Again, the name is Kemet, K-M-T, and in the Metamorphosis, which is the name for hieroglyphic, Greek people changed the name of the writing system to hieroglyphic, but Metamorphosis is the appropriate name. There's a plural determinative right by that name, and there are two little people sitting by it. So Kim is the strongest word in the Kemetic language for the word black. And when you put two people beside it, you're talking not only about the black soil, but also about the black people.
Mm-hmm.
This is a nation that got its beginning approximately 3,100 years before the birth of Christ. And it is a civilization that lasted intact for approximately 3,000 years. No other civilization on record has lasted that long. In other words, the cultural continuity of the nation was 3,000 years long, taking it, in fact, longer than 3,000 years because it lasted until after the time of Christ. The important thing about it, in response more directly to your question, is that it was the first of the fully developed high technical civilizations that are still on the record. Now, the Kemites themselves actually referred to older civilizations further south in Africa when they turned to the south and faced what they called the Holy Land, their home. They said they came from upriver, at the source of the river, to be specific. And they talked about there being older civilization, and they were children of that civilization. But what's important is that when Kemet appears in the human record, it appears in 3100 BC with a fully developed civilization. Writing was already in place. Astronomy was already in place. They already had the 365-day-year calendar and 1 quarter for the leap year and all of that. That calendar had actually been put in place around 4236 BC. So we're talking about a fully developed, high technical civilization.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk about some of these technical advances. One of the things that we talked about in the piece earlier, Sam, was the mathematics and how it was used. It developed to a point that they knew that the Earth was round. What other concepts in mathematics are we talking about here? Well,
it's true. You certainly wouldn't want to determine the circumference of the Earth unless you had, of course, presupposed that the Earth was round. We want to point that out. All of the mathematics that we study today has its roots in Africa. We can start off simply with counting. The very first or the oldest known artifact in mathematics is the Ashango bone. That's over 8,000 years old. It's from the Congo. That's found in Africa. If we go ahead, they had developed fractions. Furthermore, they had developed algebra and, of course, geometry, trigonometry, and it even gone as far as the roots of integral calculus. And this is all before Europe existed.
And we're going to be taking a look at some pictures, some slides in a few moments, but while they're getting those set up, what about the sciences? Beyond the mathematics, what other kinds of advances are we dealing with here? And Asa, you can jump right in.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is to know that the upper province of Kemet was referred to as Chem. That's spelled C-H-E-M.
Okay, why don't we take a look at that? We have a map of that. Go ahead, Sam.
And that's the root of the word chemistry. So that's an indication to us that the sciences of the earth were first studied there in Africa.
Okay.
Medicine as well. The ancient Kemites were known throughout the ancient world as the best of all doctors. Homer tells us that, as do many of the Greek historians.
Sure. Asa, now, of course, I think a question that I have and many people have is, how did they develop this? I mean, where did this knowledge come from?
Okay, the best, and we have to speculate on this, but some things we do know is that in Kemet, you had an unparalleled opportunity to be scientists. In other words, you have land that has regular cycles that work almost like clockwork. Every year the flood came at the same time, receded at the same time. You had a clear sky. You never had clouds. You had an unparalleled opportunity to observe stars. You had the need, for example, to develop mathematics in order to be able to lay out the land again and divide it among the people after the flood had receded. You had a religious orientation in Kemet, whereby the people had a respect for nature through intensive study of nature. And having done that on the same spot, in other words, these were not nomadic people, they were sedentary people who had been on that same spot for thousands of years, which again gave them the opportunity to notice certain kinds of regularities in nature. So as from what we can determine, they spent a great deal of time in botany, in observing the stars, and observing the animals and so forth. They had tremendous technical knowledge of all of these things, and out of that technical knowledge then flow the sciences, the arts, and literature.
Sure. And now some of those symbols, Sam, we have adopted in our own culture today. For example, the dollar bill. There are a number of symbols on there, and we're going to look at some pictures now, which in the Kemetic context and how they have gone from that to what we know of today. Sam, what are we looking at here?
Well, if you look at the top, that's the Eye of Horus. That's also found on the dollar bill. The scarab beetle there with wings.
Yeah.
That's was taken for the U.S. seal as the eagle.
Can we move on? All right. Now here we see the differences in the, or actually the same symbols.
That's right. And it's interesting as to why those symbols find themselves back of the dollar bill.
Why those symbols?
Well, that's because the history of Africa is intertwined with the history of Europe. And as late as the early 19th century, Africa was still being studied, though in secret. And this is a result of masonry. In fact, the term mason itself is a derivative of the African language, the Kemetic language, Ma, which means true, and Sin, which means brotherhood or builder.
Now, those are the symbols broken down.
Now, the eye,
they mean something.
Well, the eye itself is actually the hieratic symbols for fractions. As I said before, they did invent fractions, and symbolically, you can see there that each fraction has its own part for the eye, and they total 63 over 64.
Okay. Well, it's always interesting to see those symbols because I don't think too many people understand what they really mean and why they were adopted. Anything you want to add to that, Asa?
No, you notice that the eye actually sits at the peak of the pyramid.
Sure.
Every pyramid had a capstone made out of black diorite, I believe the material was. And on those capstones, frequently, they would actually have the two eyes of God. You know, that particular eye should have been the right eye, and which would be the sun, symbolizing the sun, as one eye of the creator, the other eye of the creator being the moon. But you notice that on the dollar bill, you combine the symbol of the all-seeing eye of God with the pyramid itself. So you have not just one, but two of the African symbols in a part of what Americans treasure most. And those will only be the beginning, because we're going to see more symbols besides not just the pyramid and not just the eye, but you'll see filtered into American culture and Western culture all these symbols that come off the African continent.
Well, what other symbols?
Well, the Tenkanu would be another one, which you call the obelix. The Greeks, remember now, the Greeks changed the names of all of these things that Africans had. So we know them now mostly by their Greek names. So the Greek name for what you call, let's say, the Washington Monument is obelix, but the Kemetic name is Tenkanu. And that would be another example of something that's been borrowed in large cities all over the world. Major cities all over the world have taken, they've either stolen actual obelixes or Tenkanu.
Okay, it ended right there.
Yeah.
There is a mobile version that I'll drop the link on, but that's the version you sent me because I guess it, made the point that you wanted to make.
Yeah.
And so
it was short, So
yeah. That's no problem. That's no problem at all.
Yeah, but it was along the points that we're going to discuss today. And
yes,
a lot of times, a lot of our educational videos from our historians or what have you, again, they are buried. They're in the process of wiping them off of the internet. I got information from a friend of mine, and she was like, Neil, they're scraping the internet of all of our historians and scholars, and we need to do something about it. And so we're in discussion now about how, you know how you categorize all of your stuff?
Right.
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that now, because one of the things that's very, very important for our people, because we tend to let things just disappear, or we forget about them after the initial impact. And this has been very detrimental to the history of our people. But before I go into the topic again, I want to just greet Brother Lance. Thank you for the opportunity to present on your platform again. I want to greet everyone in the chat room. And we're going to get down to the nitty gritty today, and highlighting one of our great brothers, scholars, Dr. George G.M. James, who was assassinated because of speaking the truth in regards to this history. This part of history is very, very important, and I want to tell you why. Is because we all know, before there was any other peoples on this planet, we know through genetics that it was Black people. That there were no other people on the planet, and that when they showed the different areas that were actually originated on the African continent, everything else comes out of that. And we're going to discuss a lot of that today. As Lance mentioned on his show, that the topic is Your Birthright Was Stolen, the greatest deception in history. And again, we're highlighting Dr. George G.M. James. Now, I want to cover several topics here, starting with what is your birthright? The primordial people, the world system that was structured and built from your birthright. Also, we're going to talk about who took your birthright and why. What have they done with your birthright? Who are the deceivers and what is their agenda? What was the deception that was and is used to steal your birthright, involving brainwashing? Can you get your stolen birthright back? Also, false believers and true deceivers. And the last one we're going to talk about, Judgment Day is here. And the deceiver's heaven is going to turn into a flaming hell, which flaming can be taken several ways. Basically, we're talking about fire. And you know, to set the table, I want to do an introduction so that we can see directly the point of the topic today and why this is very critical for us to discuss. And I want to use three different metaphors to show you, okay, how this is done, how it's continuing to be done, and basically what the root of this is. So we're going to use a Bible story, always been one of my favorites, about the prodigal son. And you can relate this again to the story of us, of Black people. So there was a man, a rich man, And I don't remember if he was a king or whatever. I think he had some type of power, and he had children. And he gave a portion once they got a certain age. I hope I'm telling the story right. It's been many, many years since I read this. But I know the gist of the story is part of what we're trying to portray today. And so one of his sons took his earnings and he left home early. And, you know, like many of us, he went out in the world and, you know, partied and did all kind of things. And he squandered in a matter of, you know, years. I don't know how many years he squandered all that he had. He basically became like homeless. So one day he said, well, I don't have to live like this. My father is rich. And so he got word out there that he was going home. So when the father found out about it, he set up this elaborate celebration. And he was killed the most fatted calf. My son is coming back home and we're going to embrace him. And you know, some of the other kids, or one in particular, brother, was feeling like, well, I've been here with you all of the time. And I don't get this kind of treatment. And I believe his response was, well, that's because you have enjoyed all the fruits that are here for you. So when his son came home, he realized the huge mistake he had made. And they accepted him, had a big celebration. And so that is like a metaphor about the state that we find ourselves in today. The second one I'm going to use is basically about this movie called Tears of the Sun. And I believe Bruce Willis was the star actor in this. Was military. It was about there was an ethnic war in a country in Africa. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if it was the Rwandan war or what have you, but their goal was to get to Cameroon to safety. So the United States sent in a special ops team to rescue this doctor that had been working there in the country in a particular village. And so when they left to try, they had like hundreds of miles to go through to get to in the jungle to get to Cameroon. And so halfway through there, on their little devices, they recognized and they saw this huge division of military personnel, maybe over 300 to 500 military soldiers following them. And so Bruce Willis was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why would a military contingent this size be following civilians? So immediately they knew something was wrong. And so it so happened that the protector of the royal family, or the guard, the head of the guard division of the royal family that had been wiped out in their country, was with them. And this was discovered. But why was he with them? Because the only remaining bloodline relative, the son, was traveling with them, and they didn't know this. Well, at least Bruce Willis and the American soldiers didn't know this. But they knew something was wrong because you got this huge division of soldiers tracking them, okay? So come to find out, here was the royal bloodline of that country that was traveling with them, that was the only one that escaped being slaughtered. And so once they found this out, they knew that they had to step time up. So when they finally got to Cameroon after, you know, engaging that army and dealing a division and dealing with some things that they had to deal with, at the end, the scene was you saw the people dancing around the son of the king that had been killed, dancing around him because he was the natural heir of that kingdom, and nothing could change that because our people were connected to natural royalty, okay, during that time. And so we related this to the Creator because we knew that this was given to us as a part of how we should structure our society. And it was an unbroken chain, a line, bloodline. The last one I want to use is stolen at birth. So we all have heard about, you know, children being stolen from a hospital, or even someone picking up the wrong baby or what have you, and leaving the hospital with them. Well, in this particular analogy I want to use, when the girl grew up, she realized that she was different because nobody else in the family that she was with, and she didn't even know she was taken at birth. Nobody else had the characteristics that she had. You know, she had musical tendencies. Okay, she was very inflective, creative. And the other siblings, none of them had these traits, and the parents didn't have these traits. So she began to see that something was wrong. And when she finally confronted them as a teenager, in her late teens, 17 or 18, then she was told the truth, that she had a different DNA than other family members, and that her chromosomes were genetically different. Okay. And this describes you as the primordial seed. And because you operate off of natural intelligence, which is spirit mind. And this is greater than your intellect, which is basically just formulated from narratives written from plagiarized material. So let's go into our subject today. We want to talk about what is your birthright, okay? What do we mean by the primordial people? And how was the world system structured and built from your birthright? Well, we know that a birthright is primarily an inheritance, okay? This is something you inherit, primarily from a genetic source, from your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. All of these things are passed down in your genetic memory bank. And so one of the things that was originally done in order to steal your birthright was taking your lands. In every continent, wherever you resided, your lands were forcibly taken. The fact that you are people of the sun, okay, the sun is the most influential element on the planet. We know that you are a primordial being and that you are from the beginning, the origin of life here on the planet. And as we talked about in one of the videos, that you were chosen. I believe Dr. Hilliard mentioned the fact that we were the ones with the first Holy Land, which the Arabs have corrupted now into Abydos. But our people call this land Aptu. There were no European countries. There were nothing you know today as Israel. None of those countries existed. Okay. And the other thing about you is wherever you are, okay, and this is a very important point as we discuss why your birthright was stolen, who it was stolen from, and the process by which this was done. So we know the first element of this was stolen lands. Okay. And in the stolen lands that they subdued and colonized, were all of the things that you saw in the beginning, all of the areas that we developed, okay, from observing nature, whether it's medicine, whether it's astronomy, whether it's botany, agriculture, okay, you name it, medicine, law, all of these areas of human activity were originated by the primordial people on the planet, which is you. So I was saying that wherever you are not, okay, because you are a son and you carry this birthright in you, wherever you are not, okay, it's cold, it's desolate, it's uncaring, it's violent, it's chaotic, and most of all, it's wicked. Okay, so let me say that again. You are the children of the sun, the most influential element on the planet, just like the sun. And you carry this sun, this birthright inside of you. Okay, this is your inheritance as the primordial seed. And wherever you are not, okay, or wherever you are, the energy of the sun is present. But wherever you are not, you'll see these characteristics. It's cold, it's desolate, it's uncaring, it's violent, it's chaotic, and most of all, it's wicked. Okay, the society or culture or continent, wherever you are, or wherever you are not, or I should say, wherever you are not in control, we see these characteristics played out. But what are the characteristics that you were given as the original seed? You were given the attributes of the creator creative spirit, joy. You experience happiness. And all you got to do is think about the fact that all of this has been taken away to see this truth. Joy, happiness, peace, prosperity. We're not supposed to be poor. Righteousness. Your heart chakra stood out. And contrary to what you have been taught, real men make decisions through the heart. My father used to always say that's true. So you've been taught this plagiarized masculinity, which is nothing more than little boy energy, which doesn't define what a real black man is. So anytime you're caught up in that energy, you're outside of who you are. And more importantly, a couple more of the attributes that you possess is thoughtfulness. Okay, we're never selfish people. That's not in your nature. Creativity and divine rulerships. You were the first rulers of this planet, and it was divinely given to you to rule, in which you did. One of the videos that Sheikh Ante Job did, he talked about the fact that Africa ruled Western Asia for thousands of years, and nobody ever thought that anything would ever be any different. And Western Asia is really what they call Europe, okay? But here again, we're dealing with a play on words. Okay, so let's look at the fact that from the earliest antiquity, okay, that the interpretations and the population lived according to the movement of the sun. So you interpreted everything and lived according to your natural selves, which was based on the movement of the elements, primarily the sun. To put it plainly, you are the originators of geometry, textiles, botany, astronomy, science, law, medicine, education, and writing. These were all originated from you, the primordial seed of the planet. Now, let's talk about why this is important. You must know and comprehend that Western civilization, in fact, the whole 8 to 10% of the European global people, they base all of their intelligentsia on Greek knowledge. But as our brother George G.M. James taught us, that Greek philosophy is stolen Egyptian or Kemetic knowledge, which was taken out of the school of mysteries, where Plato, Pythagoras, and all of the celebrated Greek philosophies in Western education, that's where they studied. Okay, and that's where they got all of their information from. This is a fact. We also see that the oldest instrument, as Sam mentioned, in terms of mathematics and counting, was 8,000 years old, the Ashango bone. And this was created in the Congo before there was any nation or place called Europe. And this is the oldest known mathematical instrument. As you can see, also fractions, algebra, trigonometry, and calculus was also invented from this. Now let's look at something else that's very, very important. Again, the reason why we have to discuss this in history and talk about these very important aspects of history is because they're not taught in the American history books. So your children will never know who George G.M. James is unless you teach them about him. And this is the actual fact that we don't want to face in the American educational system, because we have direct attacks on anything that wants to be taught concerning our history or concerning the truth about where all this knowledge originated. But now you can see why. Because, and you can just watch a regular show on the History Channel or anywhere, and you'll never see any of this information being presented, because they want to take all of the credit for something that they had nothing to do with. Okay, so let's talk about stolen concepts and stolen symbols. Okay, and this has a lot to do with with language development and the linguistic philosophies that we live by today. Okay, because when they stole these symbols and the concepts, okay, not only did they steal the image of it, but they stole the essence of it, you know, because our people were spirit first. So we saw spirit first, then we saw physical in mind, okay? And that is your natural intelligence. But the system that you're under, they see image first. Okay, they see image, and then they see symbols. And those symbols and images represent your stolen birthright. Okay. And then the doctrines of the mind, which is composed of fire ions. This is because, again, you're children of the sun. So when your mind interprets things through nature, because you have fire ions, okay, you actually bring a sort of heat that's not able to be generated by anyone except you. I talked about this in one of the earlier videos that I did. But let's talk about a couple of things. It was mentioned in the video about the obelisk and the tekenu and how that symbol is used. A good reference is Egypt on the Potomac by Dr. Anthony Browder, who is a student of Dr. Asa Hilliard. And it's a great piece of work that actually goes more in depth about these symbols and how it was usurped by Europeans from around the world, particularly here in America. Okay. And before you know it, our children won't even know that this was an original African symbol. Okay. And that this symbol was used actually to like a foreshadowing of a clock. It was a clock. Okay. Because they were able to tell time through the solar clock, through the sun and the obelisk or tekenu. But one of the greatest thefts of all time, I'll just mention two of them because our people don't know about this, but the great star of Africa, okay, which is the largest diamond in the world, that was stolen from South Africa, is on the scepter of the Queen of England that just died. Okay, a lot of our artifacts were stolen and then presented to the world as if they were the ones that originated this. But the great star of Africa is the largest diamond in the world that was stolen out of South Africa, and that is now on the scepter of the Queen of England. Also, the Ethiopian golden crown, when you see them wearing this big golden crown, okay, in Britain and British, history, royal history, it was actually stolen, okay, out of Ethiopia. And this had great sacred significance to our people because, again, no one could worship the creator, creatrix spirit like we did. We had a reverence for them, okay? And so the way that we worshiped also established how religion was to be conducted by people who actually stole this part of history out of our lands and then took it, okay, to be their own. Okay, masonry. Okay, everything that we invented in terms of geometry and masonry, engineering, was also stolen. I did a video about how everything that they stole out of our lands, they were able to generate the wealth that they use textiles and they use our technology, our machines, in order to build, to start the agricultural revolution. Okay, and this was a work by Dr. Arthur Lewis. Okay, how Europe, the economic domination of European countries, and how they stole not just human beings, but they also stole our textiles and our machines in order to build the foundation of the Western world. Another one very important one. The Rosetta Stone, okay, it was stolen. Languages on it, okay. Benin, okay. The Benin bronzes that were stolen in 1987. Also, it's a part of our ancient culture that if you go anywhere to a British museum, you'll see hundreds of thousands of artifacts that were stolen from our lands, primarily from the motherland. The pyramid, one of the reasons why the pyramid is the actual, if you look on my website or when Lance does the show, the preparation for the show, I purposely took our symbol back because these same people who have plagiarized and put up these narratives that you live by have told you that some group called the Illuminati, which did not exist in ancient times, that this symbol belongs to them. No, it does not. This symbol belongs to our people. It had very sacred and significant purpose and meaning. And so, again, we have allowed what is our natural birthright and all of the things that we've created to be stolen, taken, and plagiarized and claimed by another people. We have allowed that. So, I even got an email. I don't know why people think Europeans were not even on the earth when this was created. Okay, this is our symbol. Again, our geometric symbol, which was sacred. Okay, which you can see that was aligned based on Orion's belt that our people observed and also created here on the planet. So there is no question about that. There are cultural concepts that were stolen. The biggest one is know thyself, which was interpreted by our people as justice, wisdom, and righteousness. Okay, these were the things that that we looked at. Also, harmony. Fire is still a big part of our genetic makeup. Mind and immortality. And so these cultural concepts that we originated are very important to us. We've allowed them to be basically decimated because we don't live according to them. We have allowed people, because the way that the universe is structured, the past, present, and future is always with us. Okay. It is circular. It's not linear, how we are taught. And we're taught that way because you have to have a spirit mind in order to perceive what is being shown to you in the universe. We talked about the Shango bone, and primarily because of observance of the movement of elements, as I mentioned earlier, like the sun, the moon, and the stars, okay, and how their movement affected life on the planet, then we knew when to plant and when to harvest. And this system was the first agricultural system on the planet. Okay, this was also stolen. This knowledge, okay, of how to feed yourself was given to the primordial seed. And all other people who invaded our lands here on the motherland and here would have starved to death without our people teaching them the plant and harvest system of the planet. religion. Again, as I stated earlier, the mystery system, okay, out of Kemet. This is where they plagiarize all of the religious information they have. And how this was done is as they begin to pass down, okay, what they perceived as religious knowledge, because there was no connection to the spirit. So it was more religious or from an emotional base or a theology or philosophical way of seeing the world. But the first concept of salvation came out of the Egyptian mystery system, okay, where the body's only purpose was to house the soul, or the sunum bonum, which is the greatest good, okay, and it's based on all ethical concepts. Okay, this is where this came out of. Okay, so we always knew that we were supposed to be the best that we can be, the greatest good. This is something that was a part of our cultural concepts that we lived by. It was part of our spirit mind, and it wasn't even any question about this. And as I began to look at this, I realized that a lot of the suffering that we experience has to do with the fact that this natural karma from us rejecting our original primordial concepts has brought on these type of manifestations. Okay, so even though the system was established by wicked people who stole our birthright and everything that came along with it, they can't totally benefit from it, because you have to have, again, spirit mind to do this. Okay, but what they have effectively done and also put in your genetic memory bank is to reject your natural intelligence, which is greater than your intellect, as I mentioned before. And now they're doing this with AI. So what you consider as being smart, okay, or intelligent, is nothing more than a plagiarized version of your original concepts. What else did they take? They took our concept of secret orders. Okay, let's just take the mystery system, the Egyptian mystery system. Basically, they learned about secret orders from this system. Okay, and also they learned about how to initiate a member into a secret order. So these things that you are taught now and that you see and that you glorify, these were all taken and stolen from you. These were the original concepts in antiquity that our ancestors formulated. But like everything else, again, it was stolen, a lot of it by force, and then repackaged and represented to you as truth. All right, let's look at let's see here. C, D. Okay, here we go. Now let's talk about who stole your birthright. Okay, who took your birthright and why? Let's talk about that. Well, we already know. We just talked about that, but we want to go a little further into this, because again, Greek philosophy is what Western intelligentsia, it is the foundation of it. And I can remember being at Morgan, and there was something about, I had just begun to come into the knowledge. I was young. It's about maybe 18, 19. And I was coming into the knowledge of self, know thyself. And there was something that just didn't rub me right about all of these Greek organizations on Black campuses. And, you know, although, you know, a lot of my teammates, a lot of people that I knew were going, even my ex-wife, the mother of my children, she pledged in one of these organizations. But there was something deep down inside of me saying, okay, you're talking about Greek civilization on Black university campuses. This is like oil and water. It's like something is wrong with this. This doesn't. So I never pledged. And the reason why I did is because, again, I was just coming into a certain knowledge, and I knew in my heart that something was not right about this. But this is one of the reasons why it's hard for our people to break away from this plagiarized knowledge, is because we have intertwined ourselves, okay, with this stolen legacy. So we know from Dr. George G.M. James that the Greek philosophers stole all of their knowledge from Kemet. In fact, I think it was Alexander, okay, was the one that ordered the pillaging of all the great institutions that had our books and knowledge in them. But what they did was they claimed authorship of these books. That's why so many books that were assigned to Aristotle is humanly impossible, because he took ownership and authorship of all of the books, okay, that they stole from the institutions such as Timbuktu. Also, there's no such philosophy as Greek philosophy. As I mentioned before, Greek philosophy is stolen Egyptian or Kemetic knowledge. In fact, what's his name? Socrates went inside the temples, okay, and also from the Book of Stones, plagiarized a philosophy that the Greeks claimed as their own. One of the ways that they were able to do this, okay, and your cultural inheritance and your birthright was your intellectual birthright was also stolen, okay, and also when they translated the Hebrew, okay, the biblical text was translated into the Greek Septuagint. Okay, and this is where they begin to take ownership. Okay, when they started the linguistic translations, because if you go back and look at things that are translated, you'd be shocked at how we interpret words in English, or that has been written in our text, particularly in the Bible, that has no relationship to the meaning and the concept of what was written before it. And this is a form of brainwashing. So when they translated the Hebrew into the Greek Septuagint, a lot of the spirit mind of what you originated, okay, before even the Hebrews, okay, this was taken, okay, and claimed by the Greeks. The Black Madonna and Child. Okay, we have pictures, particularly in Poland, where the popes are kneeling down and worshiping see, there was before the Egyptologists started to change again the concepts that our people originated, the primordial seed, that there was nothing that we know as racism today that was comparable to this, because there were many, many Black symbols and images all over what we know as Europe or Western Asia. Yeah, the Madonna and Child, the Black Madonna and Child, which they still have in Europe, was worshipped by popes and prominent people in their social and religious societies of Europe. This is something that America has effectively shut down, the knowledge of that coming forward. But, you know, we have people that have done the work and brought back the pictures. And so we have the evidence of that. Also, let's look at, well, we know that they stole your intellectual birthright. We know that. We just saw how they did that. But we want to look at something else too as well. As we go down here, what have they done with your birthright? Let's look at what they have done with your birthright. The number one thing that they did with it is, as I mentioned earlier, is that this is the foundation of Western intelligentsia. Okay, so what they did with your birthright, okay, and your inheritance from our ancestors in antiquity, okay, and primarily your birthright was given to you by the creator creative spirit. That's where your birthright, how you became the primordial seed. So that's not debatable. We know through genetics that this is not debatable. Also, if you want to do a top side up, okay, you can't get black from white. Okay, you can only get white from black. So for people who have stolen these lands to claim that they are the original ones, then you're going against the creative creatrix divine laws. Okay, directly. This is how we know that you have a God complex and that you have never repented of any of your wicked ways, is because we know, genetically speaking, that it is impossible for you to have been the first people in those lands where you have slaughtered millions of Africans and millions of black people here on this continent, taken and stolen their work, their intellectual property, and every other kind of property, and claimed it for yourself. And then on top of that, to tell the world that the Greeks are the originators of it, when we know through your translations from Hebrew to Greek to Latin and then to English, that you plagiarized and changed everything. We have the evidence. But again, we want to talk about what was done with your birthright. What did they do with it? Well, what they did was they presented themselves to the world as the originators of this knowledge, as I said before. But more importantly, your birthright was used to build the foundation of Western intelligentsia, to establish their institutions, their educational and religious institutions. And also, a lot of people are unaware of this, that for the most part, European nations were illiterate, okay? So they used it to move from illiteracy to literacy. And I know that this is a part of history that's hidden as well, okay? But much of what we know today as language did not exist during the time of the early European nations. Okay, Dr. John Henry Clarke told us too that the first show of European intelligentsia was the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. So you're talking about a tremendous difference in just time itself. The other thing too is the oldest cultural continuity on record, as Dr. Hilliard mentioned, was Kemet, 3,100 years, 3,000 years. When the longest cultural continuity of European culture was the Romans, 600 years. So you do the math. And so that was long after our people had gone through 25 dynasties. So again, all you have to do is break down history and it'll solve the mystery. There will be no mystery. The problem we have is we don't want to deal with our history. We don't want to look at what our history is, what our natural history is, because we love the plagiarized version so much. And that's pretty much why we're in the condition we are in, because again, we have allowed people that we don't challenge that have stolen and claimed not only our lands, but our intellectual property, to claim this, put it in all their books, and then we don't dispute it. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of people who know the truth that are disputing a lot of the lies that are being told. But our problem is, again, I hate to bring this up, but this is a fact. You can't get around this. Because we don't attack things, we don't go on the offense, we play defense. And to go on the offense, it's best to have a team. And so we can effectively deal with a lot of things if we just decided that we're going to play ball with our own natural gifts and not the gifts of someone else that was actually taken from you and then represented to you. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I mentioned that, the fact that Socrates copied his philosophy directly from the temples and the Book of Stones. So, you know, this is undeniable. And then Aristotle died in 322 BC, and then we saw, you know, the real truth emerged, because this was the end of the Greeks' ability to plagiarize African concepts. Aristotle was very good at this. So once he died, then they did not have the ability to continue to do this. Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah, okay. Let's talk about who the deceivers are. Let's talk about who the deceivers are. Well, just to give a plain definition, that they are the non-indigenous people of all the lands throughout the planet. Okay. One of the things that they effectively did was they did this through the philosophy of theorems. Okay, so a theorem is a rule, a principle, or a statement that can be proved to be true. Okay, and our people originated theorems, again, through symbols and formula and concepts. Okay, Africans were the first to speak about the primal elements of the universe, okay, which is physics, where they looked at the relationship mathematically of what was in the celestial sphere and the terrestrial sphere. And they made the connection by seeing the two hemispheres of the brain. Okay, so here's a very important. So we established physics. That is a foregone conclusion. Physics, chemistry, any of the sciences you want to mention. But also, we were the first ones to come up with a concept of what you know as a God, Amun, okay, which you say in your prayers, Amen, you know, when you're dealing with these false gods. But the biggest one that they have usurped with our people, that was stolen from the Medu Neter, was KRST, the anointed one, Christ. This is an original African concept by Black Africans. Okay, this is a title that was plagiarized in religion and then replaced and added to a personality that never existed in antiquity. So when you say Jesus Christ, that is a misnomer. Okay, our people never used this concept. They never associated the individual that you have this great emotional attachment to. And I've said this on a couple of videos before, that the letter J was created in 1620, in the 1600s, 1524, I believe is the exact date, when Europeans came to America. Prior to that, there was no letter J. So the fact that the Medu Neter used the title Christ, the Anointed One, with KRST, and then it was taken by the religious plagiarizers and put together with this title, okay, that lets us know that one of our greatest titles, which you call religion, was stolen and plagiarized and turned into something that you worship wholeheartedly. Okay, let's look at the history of education in the U.S. Actually, education was started in 1635 by Puritans in Massachusetts, primarily using religion, as always, you know. And of course, this education includes
Brother, let me say you're muted. You muted yourself. If you can hear me, you muted yourself. Okay, he can't hear me. I don't know how this happens all the time. Let me give him a call. Let him know that somehow, some way he cut himself off. Sorry about this, folks. Yes, you were muted for like a minute. You were muted for like a minute. So come back on in. Yeah, from your side. I don't know how it happened, but I know. There's all kind of games going on this channel, I'm telling you. But it was only a minute, so we caught it. I was right here. Yeah, you're still on as far as it's a blank screen because you picked the call up. But if you just come off the call and then go on to unmute yourself, then I guess it'll be all right. If there's any problem, I'll call you back again. But I didn't want to interrupt you, but nobody was hearing you for about a minute. All right, good. Thank you, brother. Boy, you got to be on it with these folks. Well, they do all kind of things. That's why I say, well, if you don't see us no more, go to LanceScurv.com.
Okay, you got me now?
Yes, loud and clear, brother. I'm on it.
Yeah, so my phone is all the way away from me. There's no way I can mute it.
Oh, I know. That's just how it is, man. There's all kind of spookism going on here. I don't even talk about it no more, but trust me, they don't like this kind of stuff getting out there. So let's keep with the backside. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so I was talking about I'll go back just in case we missed this. Okay. When we talk about who the deceivers are, now I know why they cut it off. Because I was talking about who the deceivers are. Let me get this set up here. Okay. All right, come on now. There we go. Okay. So the deceivers are basically the non-indigenous people. We know who they are. Okay. That basically stole our lands, okay, and then decided that, okay, well, we don't have to create anything, all right, whether you have the ability to do it or not. We can just take this and claim it for ourselves. So I mentioned that there is a philosophy of theorems, and that a theorem is a rule, a principle, or a statement that can be proven to be true. And that's how we know that all of this was plagiarized, because we were able to prove, okay, through theorems, that they were not the originators of this knowledge. The Africans were the first to speak about the primal elements of the universe, which is all of the elements in the universe, which is basically physics. But we also were the first ones to talk about the concept of God. And Amun, for example, was a god, which you use the word amen after all of your prayers. Okay, but the one that they stole, and now I see why they muted this, is because they effectively deceived our people with this movement here. In the Medu Neter, KRST means the anointed one. This is a concept that our people created that came directly out of Kemet. Okay. But this was a title. Well, what they did was, in religion, they took a plagiarized being, because the letter J was created, I've said this before, in 1524 in the 1600s in America, when the Europeans arrived here. There is no personality in antiquity with the letter J. I don't know why our people don't want to accept this, but this is a fact. So what they did was they combined the word, I don't even like to say it, with Christ. So they stole our title of the Anointed One, KRST, out of the Medu Neter. Then they put it with this plagiarized name and gave it the name Jesus Christ. Okay, where our people always acknowledged the Anointed One. Okay, and we looked at each other, okay, as anointed ones. All of these things that have been plagiarized that you hold so dearly and passed down to our children from generation to generation are lies. Okay. I know a lot of people are going to get upset about that, but this is a fact. These are lies. We know where you took this knowledge from. We know where you stole it from. We know that although you don't put this fact in your books, that KRST, the Anointed One, the Christ, originated from the Medu Neter and our people, we know the reality and the truth of this. Also, let's look at the history of education in this country. Okay, and I mentioned in 1635, the Puritans in Massachusetts were the first to open a public school system. We know this was based on religion. So for people who want to reject this, here's your proof right here. Our educational system is intertwined with the religious thought that was given to our people. And this is where we have such a problem, okay? Because one of the reasons why they did this was because of how the emotional attachment our people have with religion. Then whatever you're taught in the education, you're also taught that this is the uninherited word of God, or whatever you call it. That, whatever you're learning in education is directly related to this religious plagiarized information we're giving you, so it must be true. And this is where the brainwashing happens with our people. So they teach in this school, which was the first public school that was opened in the United States, the Boston Latin School in Boston. They taught biblical studies, languages, Latin, English, and Greek. There's no mention of you in your language, which all of these languages came out of. And there is no mention of their linguistic origins or conceptual development, because you cannot have language without concepts. And our people originated the first concepts on the planet, as we know, again, that has been plagiarized. Now, I mentioned earlier that hundreds of thousands of stolen artifacts are in British museums from all over Africa. Some from America, but primarily from Africa. Germany and Belgium, okay, murdered millions of Africans and stole their natural resources out of greed. Okay. And there's no place called the Middle East, okay? This is northeastern Africa, where Saudi Arabia is the largest landmass associated with this in this area, but it was divided. When they took over the Ottoman Empire, they created what we now know as the Middle East. But there's no such place in antiquity. Okay. Also, 90% of the population that exists in what is called the Middle East and other lands are invaders, the Persians and Europeans, and that all land west of the Euphrates were black. The Caucasus Mountains is what separates Europe from us, from Africa. Okay. And finally, their agenda is to totally eradicate your history and to claim it. Because, again, there is no history to be claimed outside of what you created. And this is what your stolen legacy is. This is the stolen legacy of our people that we need to go back to and look at with a fine-tooth comb. Because again, there are people who are very effective at writing narratives, okay? And those narratives always have a slant to it that effectively eradicates you from the equation when you are the primordial seed on the planet. So I was looking at a book the other day. Wow. I mean, our people better wake up to what they're doing and what they're teaching our children. Not only that, and then they're even blocking just the simple explanations of our history, just the simple things that are true. They don't even want that taught. So when we start talking about subjects like stolen legacy, they definitely don't want this taught. Not only do they don't want it taught, they will not have it taught in their public school systems. So one of the other issues that we have, and again, I know people are gonna get upset about this. Let me remind you, I'm a graduate of 2 HBCUs, okay? But when we continue to plagiarize the narratives that were stolen from our people, and then we teach our students on the collegiate level, after they've been indoctrinated in public school with all of these lies, then we are doing nothing more than regurgitating the unnatural seeds, their concepts, and their stolen legacy from our people. And this is at the root of our problem. Now, I get it. Because we have no industries where our children can look to in terms of getting employment and getting fiat, then yes, you have to teach certain subjects in order for them to be able to work in these fields. But we're living in a different ball game now. Okay, so those degrees don't mean anything. They're just a piece of paper, because they're giving all of the jobs to people who are coming to this country from other countries. This is their agenda, the deceivers. Their agenda is to not only eradicate our history, okay, but to strip us down as a people, to try to take away our son, okay, to put you out in the street, to make you homeless, to make you unemployed, and give you no ability, okay, except what you generate through yourself, what you spend, the money you spend, but no ability to provide any type of future for our own children unless it's involving one of their institutions or one of their corporations. So we're entering into a new ball game now, that the people that have done this throughout history and their descendants, they plan 20 years ahead of time. So right now, the reality that we're living is from what was planned, say, in the 90s. Okay. Or you can go back even as far as the 80s. But all of these things were planned, they're put into motion, they're using artificial intelligence to manifest it. And, again, we are the ones that are responsible for teaching our children our true history, so that they can have some type of understanding and comprehension about what their assignment and purpose is in life. Not to be a thug, a gangster, a rapper, okay? Not to kill our people, okay? Not to continue to call our women bitches and hoes, okay? Not to continue to use the N-word in a derogatory manner towards each other. So these are the things that we have to work on. Okay, and I don't know why people don't want to accept the fact that all of this information that they have been plagiarized and stolen from them. There are no other people that originated this. Not you can, even in this country, when we talked about how the hundreds of inventions, maybe thousands, that Black people created in this country that formed the economic foundation of the Western world. None of that is being talked about or taught to our children. So this is why we have the Academy of Netter 1, or the Academy of Nature. And this is why we have programs like the LanceScurv Network, the other programs and efforts of people in the chat room who are on the offensive. This is why. So when people tell you that you're a Black identity, whatever, then you can turn it around and show them who they really are, and that we have a right, okay, as the original primordial seed on the planet, okay, to put forth our culture, to express ourselves based on our culture, because we have the oldest cultural continuity in the history of the world. We have this right, and let no one take this from you. And most importantly, don't be afraid to embrace it. So with that, Brother Lance, I think I'm going to close.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, I'm going to close, but I just want to say that we have reached this time a long time ago, but we have to come forward now as a force to be reckoned with, and also with our own people, because much of the blockage that's happening is through our own people. And I had some experiences earlier, this weekend, that just confirms things to me that I have to move forward with where the spirit mind is leading me. I can't get caught up into, we're talking about how these entities follow you.
Yes.
I can't get caught up into how people feel about me. Okay, that is a mute point. I'm too old for that. I can't get caught up into that. I have to keep my mind focused, my mind spirit focused on the things, on what my assignment is. And those of us like yourself and others in the chat room and people around the diaspora, we are the ones that are responsible for bringing forward this truth now, because this is our greatest weapon to combat what we are facing. So beautiful. Peace and love, brother.
Thank you so much.
Head out.
Beautifully shared, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You keep up your great work, brother. I don't care how many snakes they, put out there, how many of them come around. They can't even, brother, snakes can't come close to you, man. You got that power. And, we're here to always support you, brother. And again, thank you for all the great work that you and Mrs. SCURV do.
Thank you so much, brother. It's always an honor. Bless you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Peace, brother.
Peace.
Thank you so much. Wow. What a beautiful flow today, once again, but we don't expect anything less because he brings it each and every time. And I just have to say that since raising the vibration of all that we do here, we have to just be appreciative of the collective energies that we have and how they come into focus. It's just like when you look at that magnifying glass, and when you were back in elementary school, they told you if you can focus the rays of the sun through that magnifying glass on a piece of paper or maybe a newspaper, all of a sudden you could see that thing burn. Now, I'm not trying to be destructive or anything, but all I'm saying is that when you can see how you can bring what is something gentle on the skin, the sunlight, it might get a little hot, but it's nice, it's warm on you. But if you can focus that energy and you could bring it together, trust me, it's a very powerful thing. And, there's so many of us that don't like to see us advance for whatever reason. They want to always rabble rouse. They want to always come against. But you know what? We have to fly high and leave those people behind. Many come as agents. Many come as deceptive energies. But you have to keep on stepping. And every single day when I wake up, my focus is not on them and those negative energies. My focus is on what I can do to better myself, better the world around me, and to fulfill my mission. Because, see, like I always compare things to a boxing match. Back in the day, we used to have 15 rounds, and today we have 12 rounds. But whatever the amount of rounds, you only have so many rounds to score the points, if not a knockout. And as we draw close to the end of the fight, for us, in our particular match, we realize the importance of those rounds that have diminished, and we only have 2 or 3 rounds left, 1 round left. We don't know how many rounds we have in this fight, but guess what? We can't waste any time with the foolishness and the lower vibrational energies and the peepers and the watchers and the gossipers and the whisperers. They do what they do. I do what I do. I work outside in the light, meaning in front of you, transparent, not in the DMs, not in the inboxes, trying to be destructive on other people because you don't have a life. I'm doing what I have to do. And if there's any dispute, you can contact me directly. But I know what my mission is. Many of us who are like maggots don't know who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. And this is why they're easily led. Anyway, that being said, y'all don't know what I go through out here, but it is what it is. We're going to play this Minister Farrakhan song and we're going to be out of here. I have a lot of energy. I can't promise you I'm going to be on back again tonight, but I might pop on. I don't know. Maybe I'll record something and put it up, but there's always a lot of work to do. Many people don't realize how much it is, but I'm not crying about it. I'm not complaining about it. I just thank my creator that I have a lot to do in my day as opposed to having nothing to do and using my energy in a non-productive way. I thank the creator for that, and I thank you all for that. And we're going to sign off right now. We will be back tomorrow, but you never know. I might sneak up on you in the wee hours tonight. Much love to you all. Peace.
Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So, my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly that before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China, he took silk and gunpowder. From India, he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast, he took barrels of oil untold, raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So, my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and firewater. Tricks and lies, he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven, black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak. He needed you, black man, so he commissioned Sir John Hawkins to commit the world's most grievous sin, to take a man who's born to be free and bring him down to slavery, to sell a man as merchandise, on his body put a price. Oh, my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.